Hello and welcome to the 13th episode of the Adamola Bookman podcast, where myself, Alistair Bond, and John Coughlin say hi, John.
Hello.
We read footballers' autobiographies so you don't have to read them. This week, we're doing the French firecracker, Patrice Evra.
Yeah, Patrice Evra, 5-time Premier League winner.
I learned a lot with this book. I mean, I think maybe I'd forgot a lot, but also I genuinely learned loads about Patrice Evra. I mean, frankly, I didn't realize he was as good as he was, right?
I did, though, as a United fan.
All right, okay, so there you go, Johnny. So he was obviously in a huge United team, one of the all-time great United teams. I mean, did you think that at the time? Were you like Patrice Evra's like a brilliant player?
Yeah, I loved Evra. Like, I learned a lot about him in this as well. I didn't know that he was quite the maniac. He's crazy, right?
No kidding. And where he goes, trouble follows, right? And yeah, I just didn't know any of that. I mean, the whole France thing, which we'll get to, I didn't realize how instrumental he was in it.
Yeah, well, I think it says a lot for Ferguson, right? Because he seemed to be able to kind of harness that mania, whereas it seemed to be a struggle for other managers. And okay, fun fact about Patrice Evra, the most Champions League final losses of any player ever.
Well, you've ruined one half of my little quiz I had for you there, Johnny. Yes. 4 Champions League losses. I had no fucking idea. I really didn't know. Like, I had no idea that happened. I mean, I guess if I'd paid attention, I would have known. But yeah, 4 Champions League losses.
Yeah, well, Monaco once, United twice, and Juve once. And 3 of those to Barcelona as well.
Yeah, he came out along a bad time for Barcelona, didn't he? And there was even talk of him going to Barcelona early in his career. Like, so he must kind of regret that. But that kid is United all the way through, right?
Yeah, the book is called I Love This Game, but it could be called I Love This Club, eh? He's got Ian Wright levels of love for his club.
He certainly does. He absolutely loves Manchester United. I tell you who doesn't love Manchester. His ex-wife.
His ex-wife fucking hates Manchester United, hates Alex Ferguson.
All right. So, talking of his significance in Manchester United, I was genuinely astonished to find he is the 36th player with the 36th most appearances ever for Manchester United.
Yeah,
all right, Johnny. So we're going to play a little bit of play your cards right now.
Okay, go on.
Now I'm going to give you. I couldn't get the statistics on all-time appearances, but I've got statistics on Premier League appearances. So, Johnny, I'm going to give you a name, and I want you to tell me, have they played higher or lower number of games for Manchester United? Are you excited, John?
Yeah, I am excited by that. For each one, I have to say if they played more or less than Everett. That's the question.
Higher or lower, please.
Higher or lower.
Play your cards, right?
Okay. Geez, I'm nervous now.
Okay. All right. So to give you a benchmark, Patrice Evra played 273 Premier League games for Manchester United.
Okay,
I'm going to start with the big one. David Beckham, higher or lower?
Lower.
Ding, 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 ding. Correct. He played 8 less Premier League games.
Oof. That's a fine
margin. Manchester
margin.
United. All right. 265 Premier League games for him. All right. Next one on the list. John O'Shea.
Lower.
Ding, ding, ding. Very good, Johnny. 2 out of 2. All right. Number 3. Michael Carrick.
Lower.
Michael Carrick played 316 times for those Devils of Red.
Okay.
Dennis Irwin.
More.
I don't understand that word.
He played more than ever. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Higher.
Higher or lower? Higher. Ding, 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 ding. Correct, Johnny. 296. All right, I'll hurry this along. Nicky Butt.
Ooh. Lower.
Also correct. Only by 3. He played 270 games for United. Oh, mate, you're racing this. Wes Brown.
Lower.
Correct again. That's too easy. All right, I've got 3 more. Rio Ferdinand.
Lower.
Incorrect. Rio
Oh.
played 312 games for United. Just 2 more. Antonio Valencia.
Oh, really? Lower.
He did play less. He did. 241 games. And last one, the beach wanker himself, Fizzer, Phil Neville. How many games? Higher or lower than Patrice Evra?
Lower.
You're right again. 10.
Okay.
Well done, Johnny. 8 out of 10.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
genuinely astonishing. A proper fucking legend of the club, right?
yeah, and I remember when he signed, it was confusing because United fans loved Heinze. And then suddenly, where are they signing this guy? Because okay, Heinze, as we learned in the book, was injured, but I'm not sure that he was known to have any kind of like very serious injury at the time. And I remember the time thinking that was very, very odd. And he started poorly, as he outlines in the book, ever that is. But by golly, and like I don't even remember him like being, it's not like he was scoring loads of goals, like he wasn't that kind of player or whatever. But there was he did project whatever kind of commitment, which you obviously see in the book quite a lot. I don't know how people managed to do that on the field, but yeah, I think United fans loved Evra. Ever talked about backslang, something that he spoke growing up in Les Ulis, the roughest suburb of Paris. Backslang is essentially where you reverse words in French. Actually, what they do is they reverse the syllables. So Jourbon would be bonjour. And you're a French speaker of sorts, aren't you?
Oui.
Let me ask you.
Je suis un non. I'm trying to be clever and do it in that French way.
So it's called verlan, which is the reverse of l'anvers, which means inverse. There you go. This goes back apparently to the 19th century.
French Cockney rhyming slam or something like that.
Apparently this was used as a kind of a code between burglars in France, like 150 years.
Like the Cockney rhyming slang.
Is that where that came from?
I think so. Yeah, it's to confuse the Rozzers, Johnny.
So Jourbon is bonjour. I'm going to give you three words.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Lovely.
Okay.
I'm going to ace this.
Trome.
Mother.
No.
Trome. Metro. Oh, the tube.
Oh, very good. Okay. Safran.
French.
Yes. And Cimer.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
Oh,
lovely quiz.
There you go. There's a bit of Verlan. Okay.
Yeah, lovely old Edward. Well, he's a master of languages, right? Speak Italian, French, English.
Yeah,
some Portuguese, apparently.
Yeah, his mother's from Capo Verde.
Yes, she is. Yeah, so he always got along with the Brazilians as well, so it's useful for him. Yeah,
there was, it's funny reading this book. I was saying to Jenny, my wife, we kind of, people who are any football fans generally, but people who read these kinds of books, like we survive on, like it's like survival rations, like starvation rations, sorry. Just the tiny little crumbs of, oh, Alex Ferguson really liked Anderson. Isn't that interesting? Not really.
But Johnny, yes, to me it was interesting. And if you look on my phone, I've looked at pictures of Anderson because frankly, Johnny, I couldn't even remember what he looked like. I sort of remember Anderson and I looked up his record. Yeah, like the most he ever played in a season was like 20 games. But apparently he was Fergie's teacher's pet, right?
Yeah, Fergie loved him and his joie de vivre.
He also asked Fergie how much he earned, which I thought was quite bold.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Patrice Evra, let's go.
All right, Patrice Evra. Well, I think you can get the gist from this. Is I enjoyed this book very much.
It was a riot.
I mean, it really puts the fucking desert of fucking bullshit of boredom that was Wenger's autobiography into focus, right? Because there's nothing in there. Nothing. No little. Who did you call the good, the bad, and the ugly, Arsene? No fucker. You didn't call anyone good, the bad, and the ugly because you're so fucking boring. I've really gone off Wenger since his stupid book. The good and the bad and the ugly were Ji-Sung Park, Carlos Tevez, and Patrice Evra. and you can work out which one's which. I think we all know who the ugly one was, don't we? We all do.
Okay, so Evra, born in Senegal. I knew that about Evra, actually, that he was born in Senegal.
I didn't know that, but yeah. And it's his birthday tomorrow, Johnny, as we record.
What does that make him in terms of star signs?
Raymond Domenech would know, but I'm afraid I don't.
Yeah, if he's a Scorpio, he'd be out of the team. Did you know that?
I mean, I've heard that about Domenech. That's quite, yeah, I've heard that before. Which
so he apparently didn't. He didn't play Perez because Perez was a Scorpio.
Makes good sense to me.
Oh la la. Yeah, so Patrice Evra was born in Senegal, and he's one of 24. Like his dad had 24 kids, his mother had 11 kids. That's absolutely bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 24 is a lot, isn't it? I mean,
it's an awful lot.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. So the book is actually really good fun, right? But it doesn't start. It starts. He makes a revelation that he says he's never, something that he'd never spoken about with anyone in this book, which was he was a victim of sexual abuse by a teacher when in a school when he was a kid. So he was in France, and he was from a very poor background, and he got the opportunity to go to another school because he was playing for this particular team, and it was a big trip to get there. So some teacher there said that he could stay with him, and he abused him. He would like go into his room every night and essentially try and grab his genitals. Horrible stuff.
Yeah, it is very horrible stuff. But it's also quite unusual, right? It's a very well, it's not an unusual start to the book. He tells it, but he doesn't really return to it. Well, there's two things about this. These allegations came up later from other people while he was a professional footballer, before he got famous at United, but while he was a professional footballer, and he was spoken to and he denied that it happened. So that was a shame, wasn't it? And he said he regrets it, but he should.
Yeah, and like this is the thing that he says he regrets most, right? The fact that he didn't speak then, because he was, he had a public profile. He was a famous footballer, even if he wasn't playing for Manchester United. So he didn't want that to be the perception of him, I guess.
But yeah, this comes up in the opening chapter and then is only referred to again in the very last chapter as a device to explain how much he loves his new wife, because he felt he could speak to her about the things that he'd never spoken of before. And
yeah,
that's it.
But that's what he says, right? That like she's the one who he says that she recognized in his behavior maybe that he had experienced some trauma, and she seems to have drawn it out of him a bit.
And overall, this book is a jolly romp, isn't it? So it is a bit of an outlier. It's a very dour and upsetting start. And then basically the rest of it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, the book really is a whole pile of fun. And I suppose anyone who's seen Evra's videos knows that he's fun by nature. And actually, when he talks about the abuse, that's something that he says, that he was always the two things that he felt were his kind of dominant personality traits were that he was very strong as an individual, and that he was very light and would always be the one making people laugh. So, and that's true throughout the book. You see that, like, I envy this guy's outlook. His just, well, fuck you. I will beat the shit. I don't care that I'm 5'5". I will fight anyone. Like fighting Nemanja Vidic, for example. Like, what a way to live.
A deliciously juicy revelation. Something I don't think you knew, did you? No one knew that those two had a beef.
No. But can you imagine just being like that? And then like just to be able to stick, like, obviously there is at some level kind of, this is problematic for him at different times in his life. But yeah, just be nice to be able to stick up for yourself like that all the time, wouldn't it?
Doesn't matter who it is. Marseille Ultras, Chelsea ground staff. He'll fucking have a go, won't he? He will.
Yes, Chelsea ground staff carrying a trident.
I don't know if they describe it as a trident. Like, I think it's a fork from the pitch. But no kidding. He don't care. He told him to put it down, but even when he didn't, go for it. Anyway. So going back, like, he comes from Les Ulis, a poor part, a banlieue of Paris, to the southwest.
Yeah.
Can you remember the other footballers who come from that particular banlieue? Only
Well,
24,000 people live there.
well, your favorite man in the entire world, Thierry Henry, being one of them.
Yeah,
Anthony Martial.
who's nobody's favorite man in the world, right?
Uh,
No one likes him.
yeah, there was others I can't remember.
Ah, they were, yeah, not as good.
Yeah, so Les Elise is a really tough suburb in France. This was a sad story, wasn't it? Stuff about his brother. His brother was a drug addict, and when he was very young, he found his brother kind of asleep in the bathroom with a needle in his arm. And the same brother then late, like obviously had very serious problems. Later went to Senegal to sell his, nationality documents so he could buy drugs. And he died of an overdose when he was in Senegal. He must have been really in quite deep when he was off selling his travel papers or his whatever passport
Yeah,
and so
that's
on.
not straight thinking, is it? Like,
Fucking hell, that is rough.
yeah. So yeah, that was hard. Yeah, he had a really tough upbringing, right? Three in a bed, as so many of these footballers do, right?
Yeah, his parents broke up when he was young. His dad, so they born in Senegal. They moved to Belgium because his dad got a job in the embassy there. It's some cultural kind of job, but then they moved to France. Um, and he ran with a tough crowd, as you say. Do you remember the name of his gang?
There are two, right? I think he called two Lamoth, MAAF, which was the name of his street. They called
Okay.
themselves that, but also rather more colourfully, Zulu sans pity, right?
Yeah, that was pretty sweet, wasn't it?
Zulus without pity.
Yeah. And he sold weed. He did a lot of shoplifting. In that bit about his youth, football doesn't seem to feature all that much initially. But then eventually says it was kind of the thing that took him out of this lifestyle, which is what you always hear. He was at parties where people were shot, that kind of thing. We've heard that kind of stuff before, haven't we?
Yeah, shot his friend Isaac's brother. Yeah, shotgun thing. Yeah, there is a lot going on. On page 7, he talks of how his penis swelled to the size of a balloon after a botched circumcision.
Oh yeah,
So
that was rough.
this is colourful stuff. Wenger didn't talk about his penis once. Not even once did he mention it. Certainly not ballooning to the size of a small ball. I mean, it's a real shame. But yeah, it was this was page 7. I was just absolutely delighted. Oh, tell me more about your penis, Patrice. Go on. Oh, that sounds so painful.
You have to have
Lovely stuff.
you have to have the botched circumcision redone. Oh my god. Uh,
Yeah,
oh,
well,
and the other thing he said was the anesthetic didn't work.
it probably just felt like it didn't work, right? I mean, I've had teeth surgery and I thought the anesthetic didn't work, but they sure be it was working. It was just hideous pain.
I once cut my arm not that long ago, a few years ago, and this was in Cambodia, and I went with Jenny to this clinic, and he said, you're going to need stitches. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And he said, I can just kind of put a little local anesthetic there. And I was like, oh, I think it's fine. I didn't think it would be that sore. It was very sore. Must have been quite strange. He comes from this, obviously very urban background, and then he's off to Breton to play as a youth player. He was overlooked by Rennes.
Yeah, Rennes was like Brittany was like a feeder club for Rennes, right? But they
exactly,
didn't
yeah.
want him because he was too small. That was always his problem. PSG didn't want him because he was too small as well, right?
Yeah, so he had to go looking for football in Sicily, Marsala, where the cooking wine comes from.
He enjoys it, right? He enjoys living in Italy.
Yeah, and as a black guy coming from France, I think he was unusual in Italy. He talks about that.
Well, he's
Yeah,
quick to make excuses. He's always saying like he got a fancy flip phone, and they said he didn't know how to use it, but he said it was just ignorance, not racism. That sounds a bit like racism to me.
well, we've seen the experience of black footballers in Italy, right? It tends not to be too nice, I think. It seemed that everywhere he went, it wasn't working out for him. And then he went to Marsala, and he was in the third division in Italy. He's really quite funny. He's always getting into funny scrapes, doesn't know where he's going. Like he went to Italy, and it was before phones and all the rest of it. So his mother was worried that he was going to be like abducted or something like that. And he kind of essentially Yeah, he just kind of had enough lines to say where he was going, and people would be picking him up. But then his plane was delayed, or his train was delayed, and there was nobody there for him. He was in the middle of like Sicily, not speaking Italian. That was all quite fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite fun. And he said there was a Senegalese angel who he met
Yeah,
at a train station who put him up for the night. And really, he felt like he was going to go home. He was going to sack it off. And if that guy hadn't like put him up for the night, the whole course of his life couldn't be different. He thanks him. He particularly acknowledges him at the back of the book. This Senegalese angel who doesn't even know his name.
yeah, he never
So that
saw him
is
again.
nice.
He went from Marseille to Monza, and from Monza he went to Nice.
Yeah, didn't play a lot for Monza, only 3 games. At Nice, the big change is what happens is the Nice fullback, because he was previously playing as an attacker,
Yeah, kind of
and the
a
fullback at
striker as a
Nice,
winger.
yeah, the fullback at Nice got injured. The manager put him there. He didn't want to go there, but that's where he remained for the rest of his career, and that's where he became one of a truly world class player. So again, it's all a little bit of sliding doors moment. That fullback doesn't get injured. He doesn't play fullback. Maybe he has a perfectly reasonable career playing second division French football on the wing. Who knows, Johnny?
Yeah.
All right, so Neasy does well. He's like a League Two player of the season, or at least he's in League Two player of the year talk. But his contract runs out, and lots of teams are looking for him.
He's also
Uh,
he didn't he say he was driving around with his head out the sunroof of his car?
yeah, he's not a great driver, as is another footballer thing. And like, yeah, he wasn't even insured for. Well, he didn't even have a license, say, for a lot of it.
I get the impression he's quite an excitable young man, Patrice Evra.
Yeah, I'd say so.
He never drank until after he retired, and then he kind of had some wine and he didn't like it. But this is a man who's got a lot of energy, I think.
Oh yeah, a lot of energy. I'll agree with that. Anyway, so at Nice they want him to sign on for another year. He's not keen. He's saying they took him to a restaurant, and when he tried to leave, there was like some kind of like hoodlum gangster standing outside telling him to sign. But he kind of demurred and he only signed a couple of the papers, called his agent. His agent was furious because he's going to get a big move. But then he told him he only signed 2 papers and everyone was happy because he didn't make 6 signatures, which meant he could leave for Monaco.
Hmm.
And man, what a team they had back then. I mean, I knew they were, well, everyone, yeah, I remember they were Champions League finalists, but man, they had some really good players, didn't they?
Yeah. Remind me.
I hope you wouldn't do that. But Ludovic Julie, this is the first time this happened in this podcast. One of his colleagues was a close personal friend of me, Mohamed Kallon. Yes, indeedy. He played with Mohamed Kallon at Monaco. Do you remember that?
Yes. Tell me more about.
Sierra Leonean legend, mate. Sierra Leonean legend.
Also,
But
did you know him?
yes. When we used to play Kallon FC, he had his own youth football team in Sierra Leone. We used to play Kallon FC all the time. He was always there. I had his number in my phone once upon a time.
Wow.
I think it would probably be true to say he doesn't remember me, but I know that man. So there it is. Boom.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Good guy. And yeah, he's someone who really did go back and really spent all of his money on improving Sierra Leone. He's an absolute legend. But yeah, they were a decent team. Monaco did well, nearly won the French title, but they were concentrating on the European Cup.
Yeah.
And they lost to a really great Lyon side. That Lyon side of the early 2000s really was a monster, wasn't it? And so he joined a really good side and got to live in Monaco. Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And they beat Real Madrid in the semi-final of the Champions League, which is the kind of big moment for them.
Yeah, that was cool. And he was saying that, was it Julie was buying like Beckham and Ronaldo shirts at the airport afterwards? I just love that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, so he has a couple of seasons at Monaco. This is where he gets famous. He gets into the French team. He's pals with Prince Albert of Monaco. He tries to persuade him to stay.
He says at one point he's calling over to Prince Albert. just over to his house, and Albert comes down and he's kind of in his pajamas or in his dressing gown or something like that, and they're just having chats and stuff.
It really sounds like a pretty fucking lovely life, doesn't it?
Deschamps decides to leave after this, and Evra, like he comes in, he loves Deschamps. He plays for Deschamps later for France, but Deschamps comes into the team at one point and tells him that he's going to leave, and Evra says he didn't say anything when they're in the dressing room. Instead, he went around to his house to confront him, calling him a liar in front of his wife.
Well, this is one of them. Like, it's like his wife was crying, saying, "Look, even the players are saying you should stay." And it's like, maybe his wife was crying because one of these fucking team players came over and fucking shouted at him, called him a liar in his home. Like, maybe that's why his wife was crying.
Yeah.
But no, it was Didier Deschamps' treachery which so moved his wife.
And okay, so one of the most surprising little kind of crumbs, Alex Ferguson speaks French.
Oh, I'm so tempted to try a Fergie doing French, but I won't. I
I
won't.
can, like, at times I struggle to understand Fergie speaking English.
Let alone. Yeah, right. So his time at Monaco draws to a close. He loses the Champions League. A lot of teams are moving on. He thinks it's time to go. And that's when United come a knocking.
Yeah.
And he said he was keen to go there because of Cantona. But I think that was a bit of fan service, to be honest.
Yeah, he doesn't have a fucking clue. He doesn't have a clue about United. He doesn't know anything about United when he decides to go there. Liverpool were in for him and Inter were in for him. I'm surprised he didn't go to Inter, but maybe United and Liverpool were just bringing more money to the table. But he honestly didn't have a clue, right?
I mean, that would be my guess, Johnny. I mean, honestly, I think given the choice, he's going to go to Italy. Were it without the money, I don't know why I'm saying that. He just seemed to like that part of the world.
But he does say that he didn't really know anything about England. And he arrived there and he was like, this is a fucking shithole.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So he does. He arrives in England. He says he gets taken to a big hotel with too much carpet, which I don't know. I don't know. I took personally somehow. Leave our hotels alone. Lovely carpets.
He talks about how he was essentially wed to Manchester United first and foremost, and he says that everything, his wife and his children, were a distant second to United. So she had a rough time for the period
he was.
Yeah. So bad start with United. Do you remember him starting for United? No.
No, well, I do remember Johnny. I know this sounds unlikely, but I remember him and Vidic signing, and by the way, they were a
January.
January signing.
Yeah, which never worked out.
Anyone says you never make a good signing in January, well, United made two, didn't they? Two absolute legends of the club.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do. I remember him and Vidic coming over. I'd never heard of either of them, to be honest. Obviously wasn't paying that much attention to the European Cup that year. But yeah, and he was cheap, 6 mil.
On that point, right? So bad start with United, but this was really the goal, like arguably the best ever United team. You know, with Ronaldo.
That's a big shout. Well, yeah, Ronaldo, Rooney, Tevez up front.
Ronaldo, Rooney, Tevez, but also that back line with Evra, Vidic, Ferdinand, Neville, later Wes Brown a bit.
And then I was thinking for treble winners, but if you actually go through player for player, right, that defense is way better and that attack is way better, right? And it still had a lot of that midfield.
Yeah, Scholes and Carrick, and then
Giggs was still there.
Giggs was there, yeah, like that, and so they won the league 3 times in a row, and they got the 3 Champions League finals, and they only won 1. And then they were just unfortunate to be around the same time as Barcelona.
As a United fan, I mean, do you think of that team more fondly than the treble winners? Because I mean, when I think of the quintessential United team, certainly from my lifetime, I think of the treble winners.
You think of
but Jesper? Now you say it, that was a better team, wasn't it?
You think of Jesper Blomqvist and Ronnie Johnson. They're the names that come to your head immediately. David May.
Well, that's a bit unfair, isn't it?
Edinburgh.
But basically, that first choice midfield did not include Jesper Blomqvist.
Look, like I say, I think really that's probably the best United team under Ferguson, that one. Like, you can't really look past Rooney and Ronaldo. And Evra says that Rooney was better than Ronaldo at this point as well. And Rooney was absolutely astonishing at that point in time. And what's interesting is Evra says that Rooney just did so much for Ronaldo.
Yeah. Well, Wayne Rooney comes out of this book looking fucking brilliant, doesn't he? Like, I mean, he comes across as fabulous. There's one game I can't remember. They lost the first leg 3-0, and like Rooney came and was like, "Don't worry, lads, you only lost because I wasn't playing. I'll sort it out." Apparently he did. So good for him. Yeah, Rooney comes across as but they all do as well. I mean, like Scholesy and Neville used to absolutely smash him. Like he asked Scholes, "Why do you kick me?" And what did Scholes say?
He
Why
says,
not?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And yeah, he said one of the turning points was when like Gary Neville absolutely smashed him in training, and he was like, look at him saying, say sorry. And he's like, why should I? And then he fucking smashed him back, got him in the shoulder, apparently nearly decapitated him. But that was the initiation, right? Everyone afterwards was like, Evra, you fucking maniac. But they all respected him after that.
You know, there's a few chapters on them winning these leagues and the Champions League final in 2008, but it's fun to read. But do you learn anything new? I don't remember. Nothing really stood out to me as being particularly new or exciting or whatever. I think
Well, there's a couple I thought what was interesting. The Fergie loving Anderson. Also, Alex Ferguson's 3 worst moments in football.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was.
I've forgotten 2 of them, but the third one was receiving a present from Ji-Sung Park's parents after he'd failed to put him in the team for the European Cup final, and then he had to receive a present from his parents, and he said that was one of the worst moments in his whole football life.
The other 2 were losing the league to City in the last seconds, Aguero, that one,
yeah,
and then losing to City the following year in a Manchester derby, but I can't even remember what the significance of that match was. It? I can't remember. No, it wasn't.
Pumped. Oh
no,
okay.
No, it wasn't even that. I can't even remember the significance of it, but that's what he told everyone were the worst 3 moments in his Manchester United career.
Well, Mr. Ji-Sung Park got over it, didn't he? Like, because apparently after they won the European Cup, Evra, a non-drinker, celebrated by doing kung fu high kick dancing with Ji-Sung Park's dad. That's how they wiled the night away in Moscow. They were doing high kicks, like So it's a sweet, wholesome story that, like,
yeah, and so like G as he calls him was his best buddy at United. I suppose stuff like that is like, so you mentioned about him and Vidic squaring up to each other and all the rest of it, but he never talks about spending time with Rio or Gary Neville or Vidic for that matter. His buddies were Tevez, Ji-Sung Park, big time. He liked Nani a lot. He spoke in Portuguese with Nani because, as I said, his mother's from Cape Verde. I think Nani has a Cape Verde connection as well. Yeah. So I think it is interesting to learn who the cliques are going to be, because you just expect that they're going to be. Was I guess maybe there was no other French speakers at United at the time. He loved Pogba. He loved Pogba.
Yeah, I think everyone liked Pogba, really, actually, in person, right? He's a lot of fun. The Nani thing, he says, and he's right about, Nani's biggest crime at United was always not being Ronaldo, right? That was his biggest crime. He was a perfectly good player, and he sort of got hounded at us. Well, why are you as good as Ronaldo? It's like, come on.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah. Going back to the cliques, though. Sorry, Johnny, I'll just get in there.
Yeah.
He says they were decent to him. Giggsy was decent to him. He liked Giggsy. He liked Scholes, and Gary Neville got him his house. Gary Neville showed him around a bunch of flats, which is very Gary Neville, isn't it? Like, and he ended up living in David Bellion's old house.
Do you know what David Bellion does now?
I do not.
I heard this recently, and I don't know where. He is a style advisor for professional footballers.
Style advisor. Yeah, so Gary Neville found him his house, but old Patrice's wife didn't like it because there were stairs. Oh, you can't have stairs in a house. Like, she didn't like to carry the baby up and down the stairs. I didn't know because I missed. I don't know. I'm doing a French accent here for Patrice Evra. Well, I know why I'm doing it, but I don't know what he sounds like. So
well, I know what he sounds like because he read the first and last chapter of this audiobook.
Oh, you read the first and the last? Was the
Yeah,
last chapter about Margot, his missus?
yeah. And it's that guy, Zadie Smith's
Oh,
brother.
Doc Brown.
He reads the rest of it.
Oh.
Yeah. And Ever has a thick accent. He said a couple of things that I rewinded and I still didn't understand.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Like not insanely thick, but like there was a couple of things. There was one joke he made, and I don't know what it was, which annoyed me.
Oh, I can look it up in the book. Yeah. Didn't stick out as one of the best chapters in it. I mean, honestly, the last chapter is just a bit of a love letter to his missus, right? I
Yeah.
think they've just got together. He's still reasonably smitten and like, yeah, it's like
He wrote this during
chapter in about how much I love my girlfriend.
he wrote
Yeah,
this
go on,
during
man.
COVID, didn't he? Didn't he?
Well, that's it. She moved into his flat 3 days before COVID, so they had a nice. Yeah, so he really loved COVID. He was just
Bit of a hot
bang,
house
bang, banging.
romance. Yeah, there you
Well, he
go.
doesn't specify that, so still no sex.
The only mention of his penis is when it was split open by
Oh,
surgeon.
yeah, right.
So, like the funnest stuff in the entire book is the French stuff, though, isn't it? That's the best stuff about this book.
Well, actually, hang on. There is an Ian Wright story in this, isn't there?
Yeah,
There is
but
a funny Ian Wright
that's
story.
at the end. And again, like just the crumbs that we survive on. That's a good crumb.
Well, it's a lovely crumb. So very quickly, when he's doing TV work, he gets pally with Keno, who'd left the club by the time he arrived, so he didn't really know him. And he said they had competitions about who could be on time the most. Roy Keane hates being late, and so does Patrice Evra, apparently. And like one day, so this was the Russia World Cup. Yeah, it
Yeah,
must be the Russia World Cup.
yeah.
So they agreed to
The
meet
wonderful.
Righty to go out for a bit, and he was saying, "Oh, Ian Wright's a right laugh." Roy Keane was telling Evra that, so I was like, "Oh, cool, let's do it." Ian Wright was 10 minutes late and fucking Roy Keane fucked off. He goes, that's why we won trophies and Arsenal didn't, and fucked off because he didn't want to wait 10 minutes. I applaud you, Roy Keane. I applaud you.
Ever says that Wright thought it was funny and then realized that Keaton was joking.
He thought it was funny at first, and then realized Keane wasn't joking.
And then the kind of next part of his kind of follow-on anecdote is, so Ever was staying in the room beside Keane, and another day they were going down, I guess, to actually analyze a game, and Keane heard Ever leaving his room and quickly came running out of his room as well, so he wouldn't lose the being first competition. And they got into the lift, and Keane said, "Oh God, I've forgotten my glasses. I need them to watch the game," but just didn't go back to get his glasses because it meant he would have lost the. What a fucking crazy cunt.
Are you listening to this, wife? Are you listening to it? Yeah, don't go back. Just go. Well done. You don't need to go back.
That is
Anyway, yeah, so lovely little insight into Keno. Just a fun story. Okay,
crumb.
lovely stuff.
Yeah, so okay, let's rewind to 2008. Do you remember the Dominic proposing to his missus thing?
No. Well, I've heard the story. I didn't know at the time.
You're telling me you didn't watch the press conference when France went out with the 2010,
I'm
2008?
surprised you there, Johnny. I think I was working on cruise ships in my defence. I didn't see a lot of that tournament. Yeah, so I'd always heard of this, like this embarrassing proposal. But apparently Dominic's missus was like a sports journalist as well on TV. So she must
Okay.
have been absolutely mortified. Can you imagine? Like, can you?
But they keep him on. Like, what the fuck is going on there? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
by the
he
way,
was-
do you know who has a book? Raymond Dominic has a book.
Ooh, surely it's not translated into English, though, is it?
It's translated into Japanese, into Polish, but not into English.
Oh, no problem.
The 2010 World Cup stuff. So this is when they're in South Africa. And okay, I can try and recount this. Well, it begins with Anelka. Anelka wasn't happy under Dominic because he wanted to play whatever system Dominic.
Yeah, he wanted to play two up front, right?
Yeah. So, and then they started having they had bad results at the World Cup. They went out like in the group stages, right? But Anelka called Dominic a motherfucker under his breath during like a halftime team talk. And then that was on the cover of L'Equipe the next day. So this kind of blew up. And then it became this big thing about, French players talk about this. Like there's always this kind of divisive element. And I think a lot of the black players, the kind of ethnic minority players talk about having this kind of relationship with France that where things are going well, it's all about like, oh, we're all great. Like, look at us, like people from all these different backgrounds, Arabic backgrounds, African backgrounds, whatever. Isn't this wonderful? And anytime there's a problem, it's like, look at all of these scumbags from the Bonle. This is what, yeah, I've heard this before about French players talking about that kind of thing. And there was an element of that here. There was this guy, Gourcuff, who was kind of like the kind of blue-eyed boy of French football at the time, but Evra says he's just kind of a bit of a kind of he was a weakling, and Frank Ribery started bullying him at some stage. Just happens to be in there. I can't remember even why this was relevant to the controversy, but anyway, the whole thing falls apart, and Anelka gets sent home from the World Cup, which is just crazy, really. Okay, we're going to send you home because you called the manager like a motherfucker at halftime, and then the French players don't want to train, and essentially the French public turn on Evra's captain as well. So he's kind of seen as the face of all of this. So the whole thing is an absolute farce. And the French foreign minister comes along. Sorry, the French minister for sport and health arrives, and she says that like she meets Dominic Evra and the head of the French FA and says, firstly, you players are not going to get paid anymore. And he's like, well, we don't get paid.
Yeah, well done, Doug.
How embarrassing. But then there on the spot, she fires Dominic and the head of the French FA in the meeting. It's crazy, isn't it?
No, it's absolutely nuts. And the only not training was, I mean, there was talk about them refusing to play, right? And they decided upon not training as an acceptable form of protest rather than refusing to play the game. Yeah, it really was a shit show, eh? Like it really was an embarrassing shit show. And he sort of suspected Gourcuff was the mole as well, right? He was the one who got like Anelka's words on the front cover of the press. Like it really was. It was very interesting and something I knew nothing about, to be honest.
But that brings us kind of to the Suarez stuff, which is obviously like that was so big at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was huge.
Okay, Suarez fouled Evra, and when they're waiting for a corner, Evra says, "Why'd you do that?" And Suarez says, "Because you're black." And then Evra says, he said something to Suarez, and Suarez says, "Whatever, go away. Don't speak to blacks." Like there's he said quite a few things, and then Evra he punched him, and then Suarez started calling them Negro and Negreto, which they're speaking in Spanish in all of this, I gather. And it was heard by Anderson, by Valencia and Nani. But then this is a kind of like a little wrinkle to the story that I hadn't heard, which has kind of an Irish connection. But Ferguson sees that Evra's upset and he brings him in to say it to the ref at full time, so the ref can put it in this report. And Ray Houghton, the hero of Giant Stadium, overheard Fergie reporting it to the ref, and he was there in some capacity for Liverpool, and he went and told Dalglish, and himself and Damien Comolli, who speaks Spanish, came along, and it just became this. And it seems that Comolli was kind of there trying to explain that these terms, negro and negreto, don't have the same weight as like the N-word. And that's kind of where a lot of this kind of folks, like I was thinking about, like, you remember, like, suddenly Liverpool fans were experts on the meaning of these expressions in South American Spanish. If you ever find yourself defending like the kind of slang meaning of a particular word in a language you don't speak in a country you've never been to, like you're really in trouble, I think,
Yeah, and it got proven that although you can maybe use these words with a friend or a familiar, you would never approach someone you don't know and say them. It is offensive, and it was just bad, wasn't it? It was all just bad, and Liverpool should have just took their punishment. Suarez should have shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And Evra says that he was accused of playing the race card all the time. Going back to this fight, when he had a fight with the ground staff in Chelsea, there had been a racial element to it, but it was Mike Phelan who said he heard a racist term, and Evra had never said that. He said that Liverpool tried to discredit him, like Evra says that Liverpool tried to discredit him. So yeah, it was all pretty sordid stuff, really. And He says later on in the book that Carragher apologized to him on air when they were on television years later, and that he did get like a letter from one of the kind of higher ups in Liverpool at some stage, much later, kind of apologizing. But yeah, it was a sorry enough affair. I mean, for Liverpool, obviously the whole thing itself is horrible forever, but like fucking hell, Liverpool.
Well, this is it. This was only what, 12 years ago? I mean, like, it would be very different now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and like he does, forgive Suarez later on. He says actually, can you imagine pitching this? Like he says that around a few weeks later, because they all live in this elderly age place, and he was in the supermarket with his brother, and he saw Suarez. Can you imagine you were in the supermarket? It's like, oh, there's Patrice Evra. Fucking hell, there's the way Suarez. Can you imagine? Like, and he thought about going up and confronting him, but Suarez was with his wife and his kids, so he just kind of let it be. But later on, when he's playing against Barcelona in the Champions League, I think for Juve, they shook hands, and he kind of explains that he kind of let it go, really.
Yeah, because, he shook his hand because Suarez didn't shake his hand before. That was the other shitty thing, wasn't it? Like, after it all happened, they lined up the next game and Suarez refused to shake his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, Suarez.
Yeah. All right. Fergie's last season was interesting. They won the league, obviously. He says nice things about RVP, who was just kind of a class act as a player. But I love that stuff about the last. So they got knocked out of the Champions League final by Real Madrid. And
Not the final, just what was it, the quarters, right?
sorry, you're right. Yeah, they got knocked out of the Champions League by Real Madrid. And it was a bad sending off by a Turkish ref. And Ferguson is like screaming, like this is Ferguson's last Champions League match with United. So Ronaldo's on the Real Madrid team. He comes and sits with the team in the changing room, but Ferguson had been in the tunnel saying that the guy should have been arrested for what he had done that night. And Mourinho came in and shook all the players' hands and said that they should have qualified. They were the real winners. God, that's patronizing. But yeah, that was kind of fun stuff, wasn't it?
I remember that game, and I remember that sending off, and it was absolutely outrageous, wasn't it? It really was. I was furious.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously they won the league, and Moyes came in, and Ever was the right little deputy for Moyes, wasn't he?
Well, what struck me more than anything else about the whole lot about Moyes is he's never called Moyes. Ever always refers to him as David. Always David. Oh, David. David was struggling with this. David wasn't doing well there. And I think therein lies the problem. He always called him David. I just think it's weird. I mean, he never called Didier Deschamps Didier, but
Or
it's always
Ferguson,
David in the
Alex.
book. Yeah, it's not old Alex, my old chum.
Yeah,
But David Moyes was always just, David struggled with this,
yeah,
David struggled with that.
yeah.
It just struck me as weird. I don't know what it means in particular. Overly familiar, like a lack of respect. Could it even be that? I
A lack
don't
of
know.
lack of authority, maybe.
Yeah, that's a better term.
That thing that he described when they went to Australia, and Moyes was like, "Let's go and have a workout. Let's go stretching on the beach." And the security guys are like, "That is a bad idea. Don't do that." He's like, "We've done it with Everton." They're like, "Yeah, we don't work for Everton anymore." So they go down to the beach and they're immediately mobbed, and the whole thing has to be called off. And then from then, the players are like, "This guy's the wrong guy." But this is the thing about these books, and when I talk about crumbs, name names, Patrice. Who are the players? I could have told you that the players weren't playing for Moyes, but we want names, Patrice. This is where he let us down, I think.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But yeah, I suppose he doesn't want to.
Well, he doesn't give it.
His acquaintances.
He doesn't
Fun
give a
though
shit.
being on fun the thought of Everton being on Bondi Beach. I'm trying to think of a. Oi, Sheila! I think I see Tony Hibbert on the beach. Call me brother. Come on, let's get down there. Come on, quickly, hurry up. I think that's Thomas Radzinski. Am I right? Is that Thomas Radzinski? Fucking hell. Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. And it is a shame. And from that point onwards, he'd lost the team, right? From that point onwards, he'd lost the team. It was
Yeah.
never going to work.
Moyes found out that he was fired from the media. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
That's bad enough, isn't it? And then everyone wanted to hang around. He wanted Giggsy to get it the next year, and I think he would have hung around if Giggsy was still the manager. Woodward asked him for his opinion because Evra was captain, and he said give it to Giggsy. But they brought in Louis van Gaal, who he said was quite nice, but he decided to move on again. I think his wife wanted a change of scenery. Woodward told Evra that they had an option to extend him for a year, but they wouldn't exercise that option, so he could leave on a free and whatever, get a better signing on deal wherever he was going. But then they changed their mind and they exercised the option, and Evra went fucking crazy. And he called up Woodward and was telling Woodward that when he saw him, he was going to kill him and stuff like that.
Gonna fucking kill him. And Woodward hung up on him, and then he rang him back 20 times.
20 times.
And he didn't answer. And on the 21st, he did answer and said, "If you swear at me, I'm going to hang up again."
And he did swear at him. He threatened to kill him again. Anyway, that was the end of United. But then there's more France stuff with Laurent Blanc. Another fucking disaster with France then.
Yeah, Laurent Blanc comes across very badly, doesn't he? Very badly indeed.
Yeah, and he'd been a United player as well. So Ever was kind of, like you said, he'd been vilified by the French team. And then Blanc brought him back and then kept playing him in away games, but never in France. So everyone was like, what the hell is going on here? And every time they played Gael Clichy, the French media would react like they'd played Zidane at left back. That was kind of nice. But then they went to what was this? I guess this was 2012. And they went out in similarly disastrous circumstances. And Everett said he contemplating punching Blanc in the face in football rest.
But he managed to resist on that occasion. Well done him there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so off the Juve stuff, whatever he says, they ran a lot at Juve and he initially hated it, but then he came to love the old lady. Won 2 domestic doubles and lost in their Champions League final to Barcelona.
Yeah, he had a great time. It did sound miserable though. Yeah, the running, and that's it. Can you imagine coming from a big club like United where you've won everything? It's like where you're nowhere. That's it. One of the coaches, you're nowhere near fit enough, and he's like, what? So he came because thinking it would be Conte, but in fact he got Allegri.
But he liked Allegri.
He did like Allegri because again, a tough guy, right? Footballers really generally, at least ones we read about, respond to tough guys, don't they? That's what they want. They want to be shouted at. They want to be put in their place.
Apart from John Beck, of course.
Not John Beck.
He signed another contract a couple of years into Juve. He signed another contract to stay for 2 years, but then he found himself on the bench. He was like, okay, I'm out of here. And he left. And he went to Marseille, where he fought a fan.
Yeah, that's it. Really went at the ultras, kicked a fan in the face. And he doesn't regret it, does he? Because he said if the fan threatened his wife and kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to come and kill your wife and kids.
Yeah. Then he goes to West Ham with Moyes and Chicharito.
All right, Johnny, I had zero knowledge that Patrice Evra was ever at West Ham.
Yeah, I had very little recollection of that. I don't think I remember that at all. He was there the year that Moyes kept him up.
Yeah.
And he
didn't
play against Manchester United. Significant.
No, and he was happy not to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it. Don't be late to meet Roy Keane and don't threaten Patrice Evra.
Yes, and as I say, the last chapter is meeting his now wife, Margot, a Danish model 15 years his junior, who apparently didn't know who he was when he met her at a restaurant. That's the golden chalice for footballers. She didn't know who I was. Yes, she fucking did. She did. Someone told him, it's a fucking footballer who plays in Man United in France. Well, I have no idea.
He said that she was like, why does my friend want to take a picture with you? And he's like, I'm just somebody who makes people happy. And he lets on that it's about 4 dates later when she realizes that he's a professional footballer. You didn't bother to find out after that whole thing in the restaurant, no? No. I just thought I'd let that one slide.
Well, she said she Googled him and she thought he was some sort of internet personality or comedian. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. If she Googled you, surely she would have come across some of the football stuff. He is just a guy who makes people happy. I mean, what a fucking answer that is as well. Disgusting. Like, who are you? Oh, I'm nobody. I'm just a person who makes people happy. That's what I'm going to describe myself as. What do you do for a living? Nothing really. I just make people happy. Hello, weirdo. I think I'll. I'm out. Like, imagine you meet
Yeah,
someone like that in a
seriously.
bar. I was like, I want to spend my life with you.
Here's my phone number.
I'll make you happy too.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was that was a fun book. I thought that whole thing was a whole pile of fun.
Yep. This is what I got into this for. These books, this book, this delicious details. Someone who loves football, enjoys football, is prepared to spill the tea a little bit, as they say.
Yep. Okay, Alistair, what do you think? What would you give Patrice Evra's book? How many? Well, it's obviously chickens, isn't it?
How
How
many
many
lick chickens?
how many botched circumcisions would you give?
Yeah, I'd give that. Well, I mean, I think that's up there with Wrighty's book for my money. I think it's one of the favourite. I'd give that 4 lick chickens out of 5. An excellent book. If you're a United fan, for sure, read it. Even if you're not, I'd read it. There's lots of fun details in there.
Yeah, and it's from a period of time which, if you're our age, you're obviously, an adult when all of this was going on. So you'd be very familiar with all of the players and the protagonists and all the rest of it. So it was.
Well, that's right. Yeah, there's a list of names here, but there are names with which I'm familiar. Unlike Maradona's book, where I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, I would say also a 4. 4 licked chickens for me.
Yeah, well, I'm with you there, which is a big improvement on how many lick chickens did Wenger get? 1. Well, not from you, but from me. Yeah, this is a good book. This is a good book, and I would recommend it. It was fun.
Yeah, like the books that we've read so far, the ones that I've enjoyed have tended to be from the earlier eras, Southall, Wright, Maradona. And this is the first one kind of in the period of football that I was watching that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. It's just a better book than your Drogba's, your Vardy's. It's a good book. Have you any idea who co-wrote it? I didn't really look it up. But whoever did a good job. It is very readable.
It was Andy Mitten. He's a United fan, I think.
Oh, that would make sense. He does actually thank Andy Mitten at the end, like for putting up with his bullshit, for having patience to follow me in Turin, Marseille, Paris, London, and Manchester.
Yeah, United
Yeah.
we stand. That guy. Yeah, he's been around forever, I think, Andy Mitten.
Well, he did a great job here. This was a really good book.
Okay, Al. What's next?
Well, funny you should ask, Johnny. You should ask, because our next book we go from Manchester United to Liverpool and Villa and Leeds and Brighton and Newcastle. We're going to do Ask a Footballer by Boring James Milner.
All right. Well, that's us. Thank you very much, Alistair.
Well,
or should I say, see Mayor?
See Mayor indeed.
Yeah, all right. Well, we are the Adamola Bookman podcast.
No, we're Mola Adi Men Book Cast Pod. You've got it, eh, Patrice? He knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Please follow us and tell your friends to ask for the Adamola Bookman podcast.
Bye, good.
Bye, good.
Let your body spin like there is nothing in life but dancing. I can't keep my hands off you, as if this looked like